Welcome once again to The Breakfast. Our next conversation this morning is going to be on security. Over the weekend, news reports reaching us, of course, shared that there was a foiled kidnap attempt in Kaduna State. Security operatives went straight into action and, of course, rescued more than 100 Nigerian students who were once again, almost kidnapped. We're going to be having a conversation this morning on efforts by the government to rid the country of this menace that has continued to plague Nigeria in the last few years. What moves has the government made? How successful have they been? Should we put our hands together and, of course, give praises to our security agencies for foiling this one? Do we expect that there would be, another likely kidnap? And, of course, what's the truth about those who might still be in captivity? We've invited this morning a security expert, Mr. Ona Ekhomu, to join us and share his thoughts on this. Good morning. Thanks for joining us, Mr. Ekhomu.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
All right. Let's start with the question about praising security agents. Yes, over the weekend there was news reports of some people being rescued. There's still reports that say that about 39 people are still unaccounted for. Videos also were released and on the internet showing some of them still in captivity, being flogged and begging for the government to immediately, do what is necessary to save them. Should we give, of course, praises? Should we celebrate, those who were rescued? Should we give kudos to the security agencies for being able to stop it from being another disaster?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Osaogie. The two incidents you reference are very different, and the response of the authorities must be studied in light of what they did in each circumstance. Now, in the case of the School of Agric Mechanization, the bad guys went there and just took away the students. There was no security response whatsoever because the authorities did not get notification of what was going on at that crime scene. Now, in the other case, the one you talked about now in Kaduna also, incidentally, both cases occurred in Kaduna. There was a different scenario that played out. Now, the students applied what we call insecurity delay. They were able to take care of themselves or fight off the attackers or whatever they did. We're not sure. We don't have the forensics of that yet. But they were able to delay the abduction of their schoolmates until the authorities arrived. And they were also able to make a distress call to the authorities. So this is very interesting. This is very useful. So it means that Kaduna State government had put in a mechanism whereby people in distress or schools in distress could reach out to the military authorities or to the security authorities to come and give them, rescue in this case. So it was a beautiful one, and we thank God that the military people were able to arrive on time before the will of the kidnappers prevailed. So This was a different case from the case of the 39 boys who were seized from the other school and are getting all the flogging of their lives.
Okay, can you clarify, Mr. Ekhomu, can you clarify for us, the videos that, are flashing on the screen, are those people, still in captivity or have they been set free?
No, they are still being held. And the people have demanded 500 million naira ransom for their release. And the girls have been disrobed. They've taken away their clothes and given them just a wrapper to cover up, while the boys have been stripped down to their boxer shorts. So it's a show that is being put up by the bandits to put pressure on the government or on the parents to pay up the ransom. Now, please, when I say show, I'm not trying to diminish the threat that is facing those kids, because some of them could actually be killed, or even all of them could be killed. We hope not. But I'm just saying that that is normal kidnap tactic. They put those pressure on, they torture the people so that you will respond quickly to their demands.
Okay, Mr. Ekhomu, this situation is very peculiar, regarding abductions in Nigeria, because the Director of Army Public Relations, Mohammed Yerima, mentioned that the Army got a tip-off that these bandits had breached the fence of the school, the Turkish school in Kaduna, and was attempting to abduct them. That's why they were able to quickly deploy troops to the area, rescue these people, evacuate them, and giving them medical attention right now. I think one of the things we can point out from this is the fact that they got that tip-off. Don't you think that we're at a point now that the Nigerian military should have like a security response number that every student in the north should know to call once there's a suspected case like this, so the army can quickly, go to their rescue?
Actually, we have two roles here. The military spokesman is a spokesman, like I say, for the military, and he has to try to put things in a nice way. Now, my job as an analyst is to dissect what happened there based on the facts that were gleaned from that situation. Now, when you say tip-off means something different. Tip-off means when they were going there, some agency, that means maybe one of the criminals, or maybe somebody who observed them planning the attack, called the military and say, people are going to this place. But that's not what happened. Okay. Now, what happened was that they were at the school, they were trying to make the abduction. And the students applied what I told you in a layered security, we call delay. And they were able to hold off the attackers. That's why they injured many of them. They were able to hold off the attackers until rescue came. So the military were gallant. They did a good job for rescuing them, but it wasn't from a tip-off. It was because the students were able to call their distress. So I agree with you that we need a distress call number very urgently. Somebody should be flogged for this, for not doing their job.
Okay, as we, of course, will give kudos to the security agencies for being able to step in on time and foil that kidnap. I think it's also important to ask what happened to the kidnappers or the would-be kidnappers, when that operation, was successful. Was anybody arrested? Is it important that Nigerians know these details? Was any of those kidnappers arrested? Do security agencies know more about what gang was trying to, kidnap more people? How important are these questions and the answers to these questions at a time like this?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Otaoge. Now, there is no information in the public domain that any of the kidnappers was arrested. Now, that is not so important to me at this point in time. I think the mission critical thing was for them to first protect those kids and prevent or frustrate or abort the kidnapping, which they did. So they are heroes in my mind, in my calculation. And so that is that. Now, in terms of detection of who the perpetrators were, going after them and arresting them, that's a job for the police agency. The police should step in now and find out what clues, because they fired shots there. They were on that premises. Let them do forensic work, that's crime scene analysis work, and then get clues, even from interviewing the students, the victims. They can get more information about the kidnappers, and they can now go in hot pursuit of those bad guys.
Mr. Ekhomu, we've seen a recent increase in the abductions of school children, especially in the northern part of Nigeria. And over the weekend, President Muhammadu Buhari described this as an attack on Nigeria's educational system. Do you see it that way, or do you think it's just the case of criminals who are trying to kidnap simply for ransom?
I agree with Mr. President 100%. There is clear intentionality in the attack. Now, it tells me something even more sinister, but I'm not going to talk about that in on your channel this morning. Now, but let me tell you my evidence. You see, they went from Kankara to Kagara to Jangabi. Now they are attacking the schools in Kaduna State. That's in the Breeding Gwari Trough. So what has happened here? Kankara is in Katsina. Okay, Kagara is in Niger. Jangabe is in Zamfara. This one now, the Akaga is in Kaduna. So you see all the north states aborting Rugu Forest, that is aborting the bandit infested zone. You know, they are hitting schools serially. So that tells you that there's some intentionality. So they are just giving everybody a taste of it. And so, you asked the question just now, is it likely to continue? You bet you it's going to continue, despite Mr. President's words. In fact, it's going to intensify. So what we need to do is to find out what is this delay mechanism that Kaduna State employed. In fact, I'm going to call Mr. Samaru and find out from him, because that was very brilliant. You know, what is the delay mechanism and what was the distress call mechanism that they utilized? And we now need to put that in all schools here in the Northwest Zone, rather than closing schools and telling students to go home. I mean, we are just deepening Nigeria's problems for tomorrow.
Mr. Ekhomu, rather than try to foil, individual attacks that are planned and that are happening in several parts of the country, I don't know if you might want to consider attacking the motive, finding out first the motive for these attacks on our educational system, since you've agreed with the president that that's what it is. What's the motive for the attack? And, fighting it from that route. Don't you think that might be another option to address this rather than individual attacks?
Well, these bandits are never do well, for lack of a better description. They are a bunch of nobodies. They are uneducated. They know only about the 1 pound of finger pressure rule. That means AK-47 rule. And so, I mean, that's it. They don't have a future, and they don't want anybody to have a future just like them. So, and then you have a case of Baba Boko, which is mixed in with this somehow, at least inspirationally, even if we cannot prove operationally. Baba Boko says Boko is haram. So they are playing that out for you also. And that's why you saw in the Kankara attack, they said, that they were told to say that Boko Haram is involved in it. Well, we know Boko Haram was not there operationally. So, that's what you see happening. They want to suppress education in the north and keep those young people subjugated and make them water sellers and maybe recharge card sellers all their lives. They don't want them to aspire to leadership, just like they are, because they are dregs of society and they want to create more dregs.
All right, I want us to look closer at this narrative now about it being an attack on education. If you say, that Boko Haram was not involved, and this were, bandits or kidnappers, what sense does it make if you kidnap students, you collect ransom for their release, and they go back to school? How is that an attack on education if you kidnap them and send them back to the same schools?
Okay, sir, but I hope you are following the statistics. Most parents have withdrawn their kids from schools. In fact, it happened in Borno State also. When Boko Haram started its assault on schools, most schools were shut down by the government. And before that, most parents withdrew their kids from schools. So what it does is it has a dampening effect on education in the area. And that is so very important. Because if you discourage people from seeking an education, I mean, they're like, okay, let's go to the farm. Let's go and do something.
You're a security expert. I want, I'm sure you also would understand, know a little bit about psychology and how criminals think.
I know a lot about that.
Yeah, okay. When you put yourself, in the place of someone who is trying to reduce the interest in education.
Yes.
Would the focus be on kidnapping people and collecting ransom, or it will be on destroying the educational infrastructure?
Why bother destroying the infrastructure when the greatest infrastructure, you are talking about physical infrastructure, the greatest infrastructure is the students. So if the students are not going to school, the buildings will just crumble on their own. So if you know, it's a master stroke of genius. So now, what they do, the ransom money is to build their capability. They are building funding to buy more arms, to repatriate funds to their sponsors and pay their salaries. So they need the cash.
But if,
So
you already
basic.
said that this wasn't Boko Haram, are you then saying that the bandits and the kidnappers are also against education?
Oh, yes, they are. You remember I told you, I gave you my never do well theory, that they have never do well. So, I mean, which one is their own? They have no problem. They don't want, they are not going to be greater than, in fact, they'll be in their graves in a few months if the military is up on his game.
Okay.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, we
Please
can
go
hear
ahead.
you.
All right, Mr.
Hello, sir.
Mr. Ekhomu, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Since you mentioned the issue of ransom, let's bring that up at this point. The students that were kidnapped in Kaduna, the Forestry, the College of Forestry Mechanization in that state, we know that the Army said about 180 has been released, but we saw a video over the weekend of about 30 other students pleading for their lives and, you know, communicating the kidnappers, promise.
Demands.
Yes, and demands, in fact, of 500 million naira. The federal government have repeatedly said this. Even the NSA mentioned this last week, that the government would not pay ransom, that it shows incapacity, it shows a sign of weakness. But then even though we keep hearing, you know, ransom payments here and there, how then do you think this might play out?
Well, I think it's going to be very tough, but despite what the NSA said, and I have great respect for Mr. Monguno, he's a gallant soldier, but despite what he said, I think there's going to be some rapprochement with the kidnappers. The government is going to have to extricate itself from any form of negotiation with them, because if the government gets involved, then it becomes big bucks matter. They want more money. But if the parents are involved, they will say, well, out of sympathy and out of understanding that the parents do not have cash, they might take a little bit more money. So they'll end up doing like Kankara, taking like 1 million per student. And, you know, that's how those things go. But let me assure you, miss, nobody pays ransom and comes out and says, oh, yeah, I paid ransom. I just paid 60 million. They won't tell you that. They will tell you, we don't pay ransom and we didn't pay ransom. It protects information because they are made to give that undertaking before, as part of the negotiation.
Okay.
Right.
Mr. Ekhomu, is ransom payment not also a means of terrorism financing? Because we all know what they use this money for, don't we?
Yes, buy more weapons, increase their capability, do more training, recruit more fighters and all that, pay salaries. Yes, so it's getting dangerous because now the terrorists in the Northwest, that is the so-called bandits, they are really vile terrorists, they are not bandits. They are displaying RPGs, rocket-propelled grenades, in their arsenal. So that is dangerous. That is a serious escalation. You know, so I think we have to find a way to go after these guys, clear them out, and I think that's a task for the new security chiefs to actually take the war to these bandits and rout them ruthlessly.
Well, taking the war to them and, you know, dealing with them ruthlessly, like you mentioned. In your honest opinion, do you think that we have done well enough? And I'm asking this because it cannot be that easy to hold 100 people in some forest in the state and the government doesn't know where they are. It cannot be that easy to transport dozens of people, kidnap victims, through many kilometers into a hidden location, and the government has no idea where they are. It cannot also be that easy to keep that many people kidnapped for weeks without the government having an idea where these people are. And at the same time, we've not heard any reports of, and I asked this earlier, of any of these kidnappers or kidnap kingpins being arrested, being killed, being rounded up in a gun battle. What we hear instead is the conversation whether there was ransom paid or not ransom paid, only for another kidnap to happen 2 weeks later. So do you think we are honestly serious about ending kidnapping in Nigeria?
Okay, thank you, sir. Well, I think we are beginning to get serious about it. Before now, we were handling the problem with kid gloves. Now we're playing around with the problem. That's just what I'm saying. Now, what has happened is the pushback from kidnappers in the South, particularly, has kind of shown the government that this pussyfooting with the kidnapping problem is going to probably create more problem in Nigeria than the government wants to deal with. Particularly some kind of, it could degenerate into civil war. That is when these incidents in the Southwest, Southeast become so pronounced. Because what is happening is that people without adequate information are taking out their frustration and their violence on their neighbors who are really not the kidnappers. Now, these kidnappers are mostly foreign fighters, foreign terrorists on Nigerian soil. So I don't know why we are coddling them in the first place. So it's a problem. So, but we do have the wherewithal. The good news, Mr. Osarogie, is that we do have the wherewithal to take them on, because what was lacking before was the political will. Now it appears that political will is becoming, is coming to the fore. So if the government, and like Mr. President has just said this weekend, that this is an attack on our education, and I hope he decides that we must repel this attack. Now he has changed his security management team, and he has given them orders to make things happen. So what I hope to see happen now is that there's a lot of body bags of kidnappers and their kingpins being taken out. Now, in terms of what you said before, that we've not had a situation where kidnappers were arrested or killed, that's not correct. There's a lot of information out there about kidnappers that are killed, arrested, and all that. So that is quite, we are doing that, but not enough.
Okay.
Not enough to reduce the threat.
All right, Mr. Ona Ekhomu, please hold on for us. We'll go on a break and we'll come back with another guest to join the conversation.